The day I cut them off, how my daughter called me useless, so I canceled 65 payments and watched her world crumble. I never thought I'd be that mother. You know the type, the one who actually follows through. The one who stops being the doormat and starts being the backbone she should have been all along. My name is Laura, I'm 73 years old, and I'm about to tell you the story of how my daughter Jessica and her husband Mark learned the hardest lesson of their entitled lives. If you've ever been taken for granted by the people you love most, if you've ever felt invisible in your own family, then buckle up because this story is for you. And before we dive in, do me a favor, hit that like button if you believe respect goes both ways. Subscribe if you want to hear more truth from this old lady, and drop a comment telling me where you're listening from. I want to know I'm not alone in this world of people who've had enough. Now, let me take you back to that Wednesday afternoon when everything changed. It was raining. Not the gentle spring rain that makes everything smell fresh and new, but the cold, punishing November rain that seeps into your bones and makes you want to stay in bed forever. I was in my kitchen, the same kitchen where I'd baked Jessica's birthday cakes for 34 years, the same kitchen where I'd taught her to make her grandmother's lasagna, the same kitchen where I'd cried silent tears more times than I could count over the past 5 years. My hands were wrapped around a cup of tea that had gone cold 20 minutes ago, and I was staring at my phone, willing it not to ring. But of course it did. It always did. Because Wednesday was bill day, and on bill day, Jessica always called to make sure her useless, exhausting mother hadn't forgotten to pay for her life. "Mom?" Her voice came through the speaker with that particular tone she'd perfected, the one that was half exasperation, half obligation. Not love. Never love anymore. "Did you transfer the money for the mortgage yet?" Mark is asking. No hello. No how are you feeling? No acknowledgement that I was a human being with feelings and a beating heart that broke a little more with each transaction. Just business. Just money. Just the ATM machine they'd turned me into ever since Jessica's father passed away and left me with more money than grief, apparently. "Yes, Jessica," I said, keeping my voice steady even though my hands were shaking. "I transferred it this morning. Along with the car payment, the insurance, the country club membership, the okay. She cut me off, and I could hear her doing something else while we talked. Probably scrolling through her phone, planning her next shopping trip with my money. "Listen, I can't talk long. We're meeting the Hendersons for dinner at that new place downtown. The reservation alone cost $300. Can you believe it?" Yes, I could believe it. Because I was the one paying for it. The reservation, the dinner, the wine, the tip, the valet parking. All of it. Every single cent. But here's the thing about being a mother, you convince yourself it's love. You tell yourself that providing for your children, even your adult children, even when they treat you like an inconvenience, is just what mothers do. We sacrifice. We give. We erase ourselves little by little until there's nothing left but the checkbook and the deep, aching hope that maybe, just maybe, they'll remember we're human too. "Mom, you still there?" Jessica's voice snapped me back to the cold kitchen and the colder reality. "Yes, I'm here." "Good. Because I need to talk to you about something." My stomach dropped. That tone. I knew that tone. It was the tone that preceded requests for more money, for bigger favors, for pieces of my soul I didn't have left to give. "Mark and I have been talking," she continued, and I could hear him in the background, his voice a low rumble of agreement to whatever she was about to say. "We think you should sell the house." The house. My house. The house where Jessica took her first steps, where we'd hung Christmas stockings for 3 decades, where every creaky floorboard held a memory of a life fully lived. "Sell it?" I managed to whisper. "Why would I sell my home?" "Because, Mom, it's too much for you. You're 73 years old. You're not as sharp as you used to be. Yesterday you forgot to pay the electric bill on time, and we almost had a late fee. It's exhausting keeping track of you, honestly. And Mark thinks we could use the equity to invest in this amazing opportunity his friend has. It's basically guaranteed returns. Not as sharp. Exhausting." There they were, the words that would echo in my head for the next 72 hours, burning hotter and brighter with each repetition. Not the fact that I'd paid 65 separate bills for them every single month for the past 5 years without missing a single one until yesterday's small delay. Not that I'd given them everything. Just that I was exhausting when I wasn't perfect. I see, I said quietly. Too quietly. Because inside, something was happening. Something was shifting like tectonic plates beneath my carefully maintained composure. And what does this have to do with selling my house? Well, we'd need you to sign it over to us. For the investment. But don't worry, you can come live with us. We'll convert the garage. It'll be cozy. The garage. They wanted me to live in the garage of the house I was funding while they invested the proceeds from my home, the home I'd built with my husband over 40 years, into some scheme dreamed up by Mark's golf buddy. And they thought this was generous. They thought I should be grateful. I need to think about it, I heard myself say, my voice coming from somewhere far away. Think about it? Jessica's tone shifted to irritation. Mom, this is a good thing. We're trying to help you. You're being difficult. I'm being difficult? Something in my voice must have registered because she paused. You know what I mean. You're being. Look, you're useless with this stuff, and it's exhausting trying to manage everything for you. Just trust us on this, okay? Useless. Exhausting. There they were. The words that would change everything. I don't remember what I said next. I think I made some non-committal sound and ended the call. What I do remember is sitting in that kitchen as the rain hammered against the windows, and for the first time in 5 years, allowing myself to feel the full weight of what I'd become. Not a mother. Not a person. A resource. A bank account with a heartbeat. And I was tired. God, I was so tired. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat at my husband's old desk, the one Jessica had asked me to throw out because it was taking up space we could use when we visit, and I started going through files. 5 years of files. 5 years of payments. And as I went through each one, making a list in my careful handwriting, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Clarity. The mortgage payment for their 4-bedroom house in the gated community, $2,800 a month. The payment on Mark's Tesla, $1,200. Jessica's Range Rover, $950. The country club membership they used 3 times a week, $600 monthly. The lawn service, the pool service, the house cleaning service, $450 combined. Jessica's personal trainer, $300 a week. Their daughter Lily's private school tuition, $2,000 a month, plus $400 for enrichment activities. Mark's golf club membership, $550. Their family cell phone plan, $320. The gardening service for the roses Jessica just had to have, $200. Their subscription boxes, meal kits, wine clubs, beauty products, streaming services, approximately $400 monthly. The pet insurance for their 2 designer dogs, $180. Jessica's monthly spa membership, $270. Their home security system, $150. Mark's gym membership at the exclusive downtown facility, $225. The list went on and on. 65 separate payments. 65 different ways I'd been making their life comfortable, easy, luxurious. And in return, I'd gotten Wednesday phone calls to make sure the ATM was still functioning. I'd gotten occasional holiday visits where they checked their phones more than they looked at me. I'd gotten criticism about a single late payment and labels like useless and exhausting. By 3 in the morning, I'd made my decision. By 6, I'd contacted my lawyer, the one Jessica didn't know I had because she assumed I was too not sharp to manage my own affairs. By 9, I'd begun the process. The cancellation process. I started with the non-essentials. The country club. The trainers. The subscription boxes. The premium services. I called each company, verified my identity as the account holder and payer, and systematically canceled them. Each time I heard the confirmation, your payment has been canceled effective immediately, I felt a little lighter. A little more real. A little less invisible. But I didn't stop there. Over the next week, I canceled everything. The car payments, I'd paid off enough that the cars would be repossessed for non-payment of the remaining balance. The private school tuition. The insurance policies I'd been covering. The cell phone plan. Everything except the absolute essentials, their mortgage and basic utilities. And even those, I put on notice that my payments would end in 30 days. I didn't tell them. That was the crucial part. I just stopped. And then I waited. The first call came on a Thursday, 12 days after our conversation. Jessica was hysterical. Mom, the country club just called Mark and said our membership was canceled. They said the payment didn't go through, and when they tried to process it again, they were told the account was closed. What happened? Did you forget? Mom, this is so embarrassing. We had people we were supposed to meet there tomorrow. I took a sip of my tea, hot this time, perfectly steeped, and looked out at my garden, where the last autumn flowers were still blooming. I didn't forget, Jessica. I canceled it. Silence. Complete, utter silence. Then, you. What? Why would you do that? Mom, are you confused? Did you press the wrong button, or I canceled it on purpose? I also canceled about 40 other payments. The rest will be canceled by the end of the month. I could hear her breathing, fast and panicked. This isn't funny, Mom. Whatever you're trying to prove, I'm not trying to prove anything, sweetheart. I'm just done being useless and exhausting. Another silence. Longer this time. What are you talking about? But her voice had changed. There was something in it now. Something that might have been the first glimmer of understanding. Or maybe fear. Last week, you told me I was useless with managing things. That it was exhausting keeping track of me. You wanted me to sell my house and live in your garage so you could invest my money. And I realized you were right about one thing. I was being useless. But not in the way you meant. I was being useless to myself. I was exhausting my own resources, my own life, my own dignity for people who saw me as nothing more than a bank account. Mom, I didn't mean, we didn't, that's not what we were saying. The panic was full-blown now. Wasn't it? Then what were you saying, Jessica? When's the last time you visited me without needing something? When's the last time you called just to hear my voice? When's the last time you treated me like I mattered for something other than money? She was crying now. But so was I. Finally crying for the 5 years I'd spent disappearing. The calls escalated. Mark called, trying his smooth salesman routine, the one that probably worked on his clients, but felt like sandpaper on my skin. Laura, let's be rational about this. We can work something out. You're upset, I understand, but let's not make rash decisions. Rash decisions. I'd spent a week carefully, methodically, precisely undoing 5 years of financial support, and he called it rash. Mark, I said calmly, the only rash decision I made was enabling you and my daughter to become adults who think it's normal for a 73-year-old woman to fund their entire lifestyle. That ends now. My granddaughter Lily's school called me directly, asking about the tuition. I explained that her parents would need to handle that going forward. The car companies started their repossession processes. The spa called Jessica to collect payment. The private trainer, the golf club, the meal service, one by one, they all came calling for the money that had suddenly stopped flowing. And I watched it all unfold with a mixture of sadness and something I barely recognized, self-respect. 3 weeks in, Jessica showed up at my door. Really showed up, not just the obligatory holidays. She looked terrible, hair unwashed, eyes red from crying, wearing sweatpants instead of her usual designer athleisure. Mom, she said, and her voice cracked. Can I come in? I let her in. I'm not made of stone, and she's still my daughter. But I didn't make it easy. I didn't offer tea or cookies or any of the maternal comforts I'd always provided automatically. I just sat in my favorite chair and waited. We're losing everything, she said finally. The cars are being repossessed tomorrow. We had to pull Lily out of St. Augustine's. Mark's business partners are asking questions because we can't afford the golf club anymore, and apparently that's where he was making all his connections. Our friends from the country club won't return our calls. It's all falling apart. I'm sorry you're going through that, I said, and I meant it. Not sorry enough to fix it, but sorry that she was learning this lesson so painfully. But I don't understand why you're doing this. We're your family. You're supposed to help family. And there it was. The entitlement laid bare. Jessica, I said slowly, choosing each word carefully, do you know what I did before you were born? I was an accountant. A damn good one. I managed portfolios worth millions. I raised you while building a career, helped your father build his business, and when I retired, I was sharp enough to manage our investments so well that we never had to worry about money. After he died, I grieved, but I didn't fall apart. I managed everything perfectly. Until I decided to manage your life too. She started to interrupt, but I held up my hand. For 5 years, I've paid 65 different bills for you every month. 65. I created spreadsheets, set reminders, tracked due dates, negotiated with service providers when prices went up. I did all of this while you told yourself and me that I was losing my edge, that I was forgetful, useless, exhausting. Do you know why I was late with that electric bill? She shook her head, tears streaming down her face. Because I was in the hospital. I had pneumonia. I didn't tell you because you were busy with your country club fundraiser, and I didn't want to be a burden. I paid that bill from my hospital bed, 1 day late, and your response was to call me useless. The look on her face, I'll remember it forever. It was the moment she actually saw me. Really saw me. Not as Mom the ATM, but as Laura the person. Laura who got sick. Laura who had feelings. Laura who had been slowly dying inside while keeping her alive in luxury. Mom, she whispered. I didn't know. Why didn't you tell me? Because you didn't ask. You never asked. Not how I was feeling, not how I was doing, not what I needed. Just whether the bills were paid. We sat in silence for a long time. The rain had started again, lighter this time, tapping gently against the windows. Finally, Jessica spoke. What do we do now? You figure it out. You're both adults with college educations and able bodies. You get jobs that pay your bills. You downsize. You budget. You learn what sacrifice means. You become the parents Lily deserves, ones who understand that love isn't measured in country club memberships and designer dogs. And us? You and me? Her voice was small, like when she was 5 and had broken my favorite vase. That depends on you. I'm not your ATM anymore, Jessica. But I'd very much like to be your mother again. If you want a mother. If you can see me as a person worthy of respect and love, not just resources. She nodded, crying harder now. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I believed her. Or at least, I believed she was sorry in that moment. Whether that sorry would translate into actual change, that remained to be seen. She left an hour later, and I sat in the quiet house, feeling strangely at peace. Over the next months, I watched from a distance as Jessica and Mark rebuilt their lives. They sold the big house and moved into a modest 3-bedroom in a regular neighborhood. They got rid of 1 car. Mark took a regular sales job with a steady paycheck instead of chasing investment schemes. Jessica went back to work as a teacher, something she'd done before Lily was born and had loved. Lily switched to public school and, according to Jessica's increasingly frequent calls, was thriving, making real friends instead of the competitive friendships she'd had at private school, learning about budgets and value and the difference between wants and needs. They struggled. I won't pretend they didn't. There were calls where Jessica cried about being tired, about missing her old life, about feeling like a failure. But I noticed something. She never asked me to fix it. She just needed to talk. Needed her mother to listen. And slowly, painfully, we started building something we'd never actually had, a real relationship. 6 months after I canceled everything, Jessica called me on a random Tuesday afternoon. Not to ask for anything. Just to tell me she'd been thinking about me and loved me. I cried after we hung up. Those were the words I'd been paying 65 bills a month to hear, and it turned out I'd had to stop paying to finally receive them for free. Now, I know some of you listening might think I was too harsh. That a mother should give everything to her children, no matter what. And you're entitled to that opinion. But here's what I learned. Real love requires boundaries. Real respect requires that you value yourself enough to demand it from others. And real family isn't about who pays for what. It's about who shows up for whom, not just financially, but emotionally, physically, spiritually. Would I do it again? In a heartbeat. Would I recommend it to others in similar situations? That's trickier. Every family is different. But I will say this. If the people in your life value you only for what you provide, not for who you are, then you're not in a relationship, you're in a transaction. and you deserve so much more than that. Jessica and I have dinner every Sunday now. At my house, usually, because I love to cook and she's learning to appreciate simple meals around a simple table. Mark joins us sometimes, and he's awkward but trying. He apologized in his way. Asked if I needed help with anything around the house. I said yes once, just to see what would happen, and he spent a whole Saturday fixing my fence. Lily calls me now. Real calls where she tells me about school and friends and books she's reading. She doesn't know that I used to pay for her private school or that Grandma was the reason they had such a fancy life. She just knows I'm Grandma who listens and cares and makes the best chocolate chip cookies. As for me, I'm still here in my house, the one they wanted me to sell. I'm still sharper, maybe, now that I'm not exhausting myself trying to manage someone else's life. I joined a book club. Started volunteering at the library. Reconnected with old friends I'd neglected while being Jessica's personal bank. I'm living my life. My own life. Not as someone's mother or someone's ATM, but as Laura. 73 years old and finally visible. So if you're still with me, thank you for listening to this old lady's story. If you found value in it, if you understood what I went through, hit that like button. Subscribe if you want to hear more stories about finding yourself after losing yourself in others. And please, drop a comment telling me where you're listening from and whether you've ever felt invisible in your own life. Let's build a community of people who know their worth. Because here's the final truth I learned: it's never too late to cut off what's draining you. It's never too late to demand respect. It's never too late to stop being useless to yourself and start being everything you need. The day I canceled those 65 payments wasn't the day I gave up on my daughter. It was the day I finally, after 73 years, refused to give up on myself. And that made all the difference.